Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Braxus Photography Fun. Well, in this video I wanted to actually try out some Panatomic X in Microdol X. Now, Microdol X was the recommended developer for Panatomic X back in the day, and Microdol X didn't stick around. It actually was discontinued in, I think, around 2012 thereabouts, and never raised its head again since. But people always used to use Microdol X when it came to Panatomic X, and the reason for that is Microdol X makes the grain really fine. It actually makes it maybe a little bit mushy in that sense, but it smooths out the grain and makes it even finer than some other aspects of other developers. And that was one of the reasons why they recommended it with Panatomic X, because Panatomic X had really fine grain to begin with, and they wanted to match that with a really fine grain developer. And as the result, you'd get a really smooth, fine grain image out of that. Now, Microdol X is pretty much not needed anymore because of Xtol did basically almost the same thing. And that is sort of one reason why I wanted to do this test. Now, what I did is I shot a 36 roll of Panatomic X in 35mm, and I went to my favorite spot to take those pictures, and I repeated 3 shots in succession until I finished off the roll. Now, the intention to do was to take maybe almost foot sections of the roll each, break that up into each foot section, put that in its own developing tank, and develop it in a specific developer combination. And yeah, so the combinations I decided to do were one Microdol X straight, Xtol straight, Microdol X 1:1, Xtol 1:1, Microdol X first, and then halfway into developing that roll, dump the developer and put in Xtol second to finish off the development process, and see if the two mixed together in that aspect would help maybe make the grain a little bit finer, tighter, that kind of thing. And then I did the reverse in the next one, Xtol first and then Microdol X. And finally, the 7th one that I wanted to do was swamp water. Now, that's basically mixing Microdol X and Xtol in the same solution and developing that just to see exactly what you would get. And so yeah, assuming I cut the film into the proper sections, let's see how they actually turn out. So let's get right on to it. So I'm here out in one of my favorite areas to take pictures of. As you can see, it's quite a nice sunny day out today. And I've got my Canon Lam 7 with some Panatomic X film in it. And basically I'm going to be shooting 3 shots here, here, and here, successive from each other until the roll is finished. The plan is to take 1-foot sections of this roll of film and snip off each foot section, develop it in its own developer, and hopefully get enough film to be able to do the several developer test shots that I want to do. I'll get that scanned up later when I get that finished. But anyway, I'm going to be shooting the shots all at the same shutter speed and f-stop. The reason for that is to keep the test consistent, so I'll meter these 3 scenes, and I'll basically get an average between the 3 of them and use that camera on manual mode and get those 3 shots in succession. So anyway, let's take a meter reading. So I got a small variance in shutter speed between the 3 scenes that we'll be taking pictures of. So I'm just going to average it out between the 3 of them and set that on the camera. So there we are, 90th of a second at f5.6. So anyway, let's get our shots now. So my roll has been finished. I'm just going to get this sent back home and I start developing it into the foot sections that I plan in different developers. And let's see how this all turns out. I do want to put a disclaimer in regards to this test that I did. Part of the reason I'm doing it the way I am is because I'm a little bit nutty, I'm a little bit experimental, that kind of thing, and I wanted to see what happens when you mix two developers together. No specific reason for that, I just wanted to see what kind of result you would get. And because Microdol X was Panatomic X's official recommended developer for the film, I wanted to see if it still holds up today compared to Xtol, which is known as one of the best developers out there. So anyway, that's part of my reasoning for that, and I'm just curious to see what happens if you do mix them together. I mean, it just, poof, I don't know, I just having a little bit of fun here. And I do also want to mention that my testing methods are not scientifically really elaborate or anything like that. I just wanted to do this test to see if I can see any differences with the workflow and the methods and equipment that I have available to me. If I can see a difference in this test, then it would be valid to me, because then I could basically move on from there and continue to using the methods that give me the results that I noticed in this test. So yeah, don't shoot me down because this is not done this way or done that way. I just wanted to do this test for myself and show the results to you for any of those that would be interested in seeing the results. So anyway, there's that. People may complain about my testing methods, or this should have been done this way or done that way, or I would have done this, done that. I'm not interested in doing this test again because it took me half a day to develop the film, and as such. But anyway, let's get on with this test and see how everything turned out. So here I got two of my Patterson two-reel containers. I got my roll of Panatomic X right here and some scissors to cut it into sections, and I can only do two developing times at a time, so I'll have to repeat this process with the tanks until I get all 7 strips actually developed. So the first one I will be developing is the Microdol X straight. This is not a diluted mixture, but Xtol's coming after that. Microdol X, according to the Panatomic X pamphlet, says for 68 degrees or Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius, it's asking for 7 minutes in straight Microdol X. Now, being that the temperature is quite warm at this time of year, we're in the middle, well, we're just at the start of summer here in North America, and my temperature is right up around 28 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to have to do a conversion to the higher temp for a lower time for Microdol X, and we'll do that in this tank here. And then once I get the Microdol X one, I'm going to be marking it for -1 so I know which ones are which. And then from there I'll be doing my Xtol straight. And then I'm going to be saving the developer to reuse it again. except the next time I'll be diluting it into 1:1, and the same with the Xtol as well, and we'll just keep repeating the process until we go down the list of the 7 different items that I had planned to develop. Now this will take a little bit of time for me to do, but it's hopefully going to be worth it to see if we can see some result differences between the two. So let's get at it. And here's the Microdol X clone. This is the chemicals that are sold by B&H. And this is technically a clone to Microdol X, since Microdol X is no longer made. But I'm not sure how much this particular clone differs from the original Kodak chemistry. But for the remainder of this video, I'm just going to call this Microdol X, just to avoid any confusion as to what developer I'm trying to reference. But again, I do want to state that the chemicals I did use in this test is Mic X. So after doing the conversion for the time for the temperature, I'm getting 3.5 minutes in Microdol X straight. That is below the 4-minute threshold to do the film properly, but unfortunately in this case I don't want to overdevelop by any, because that will change the results as well. So I'm just going to go with a 3.5 minute time. So let's get to it, and we'll get developing here right away. So this is Microdol X straight. And on the second round of developing, for some reason my stop bath went from orange to purple between it. When I dumped it out from the last round, it went kind of gray, and now it's gone purple. So I don't know if Panatomic X is doing this or if it's something else in the process, but I'm really curious. And over here is my roll number 1 of the 7 test, and this is the Microdol X straight developer. So it actually turned out fairly well. It looks pretty good, so we should be able to get some usable shots off this negative. So now here I'm on to round 2. This is the second batch of developing that we'll be doing. The first batch was Xtol straight and Microdol X straight. This second batch will be those 2 developers, but diluted 1:1 for Xtol and 1:3 for Microdol X. Now I remixed up my batch of Microdol X, diluting it to the 1:3 portion, and I'm double checking the temperature, and it's still hovering around 27-28 degrees Celsius. So with that timing, I'm going with 6 minutes for Microdol X and 1:3 at the 28 degree temperature. And yeah, we'll see how that one turns out. I initially, on my last batch of developing the Xtol one, I cut a portion of the film that was the leader, and I had no images on it, so I had to snip off another section and redo my Xtol straight developing. So I got that done. It's hanging up here as we speak, and yeah, so I'm ready to do the next batch, and let's get on with it. So here we go. So I'm now on to round 3. This is my third set of developing, and I've got my strips in the tanks again. This will be strip number 5 and number 6. And what I'm going to be doing is in one tank I'll be doing Microdol X first, then halfway through I'll be draining it and putting Xtol in after that. Second, to continue the developing process. And the way I've timed it out, I've got Xtol for a maximum of 3.5 minutes, and with Microdol X will be 3 minutes on that. So those are the 2 times I will be using for each developer in the same tank at separate times. And the first round I'll be doing Microdol X first, then Xtol, and then the other tank I'll be doing Xtol first, and then Microdol X second. So let's get on with that and do this next round. Well, here we are at the moment of truth. I've finally got my last strip, which is strip number 7 in the container, and this one is going to be the fun one. This one I'm actually taking half of the Xtol developer, which is 1:1, and half of the Microdol X, which is 1:3, and I'm going to be pouring them into one developing container, mixing the two parts together into one solution, and it's essentially going to be a swamp water developer, and that's going to be the fun thing. People say it's not going to work, and I'm very curious to see what exactly it will do. I managed to get a good length on the film itself, so we should have lots of film to test it on. And yeah, so let's get right on to actually developing these two developers together and see what we actually do get. So I actually have my empty container for the two developers to go into. And right here I've got my Microdol X, and I'm going to be putting 200 milliliters in the container and 200 milliliters of the other to make 400, just to make sure we got a good amount of solution. And yeah, so there we have 200 milliliters of Microdol X. And here we go with the Xtol. I'll be getting 200 milliliters of that. And it's not turning any color, so nothing fantastical on this one. And there we are, there's our mix. Now with this developer, I'm going to basically be doing the times that I did previously for the developers, and adding those two times together, which should give me around 6.5 minutes total time for this to be in the tank. So let's get on with it and see how this actually turns out. And my word, we actually have images on this. I am very surprised. Let's take a look at this. Can you believe it? Swamp water developer actually works. And it doesn't actually look too bad at all. The negative is nice and clear. The blacks are really deep, and there's good tones in this. So I'm really shocked that this actually worked. I guess that'll put the naysayers away and prove to them that, you know, if you try something, you may actually get a result from it. Here are strips 1 through 6, and these were the first set before the last one, which was the swamp water one. That one is still on the rack drying as we speak, but these ones are all ready to be scanned up here. So we'll just take a closer look at these. And as you can see, they do seem fairly contrasty, so maybe they were all slightly overdeveloped, but they still should produce some fairly decent images on this. So to start out with the comparisons, I did a contact sheet of all the strips and negative, minus a few several shots that were repeated on the same section of developer strips. So basically we've got all the important ones here, and as you can see right off the bat, that the dual bath and the swamp water mix seems to have higher contrast and brighter whites in the skies, that kind of thing. In comparison, the tones seem to be a little bit more contrasty in those particular sets of negatives, whereas the previous set of negatives seem to have less contrast and maybe not quite as strong a tones either. So there we are. We'll move ahead on to the individual comparisons next. And here we are. We've got the first set of pictures up. These were the straight mixes, nothing else. The first picture on the left is the Microdol X, or in my case the Mic X clone. And the picture on the right is Xtol straight. They're both straight mixes on this picture set, and nothing was mixed in with this. What we see here is the full images. Again, the Microdol X is on the left, the Xtol is on the right. So anyway, let's go in and see if we can see any grain difference in the picture. From what I could see here, the tones look pretty much the same between the two. Other than that, they haven't changed too much. So let's go in quite a bit. Okay. And as you can see, the Microdol X seems to have a little bit of deeper tones in this picture at close up. We're at 67% in zoom here. The grain looks a little bit more chunky on the Xtol than the Microdol X. The Microdol X seems to have a smoother grain from what we could see here. You can even see it in the sky slightly a little bit, that the grain looks a little bit more. So let's zoom in even more here. Well, we'll go up to say 126%. And yeah, the Xtol seems to have a brighter sky in this picture. And yet the Microdol X has deeper blacks. So that could be an exposure difference there, but possibly nothing too exaggerated. We'll go down to the water here. And yeah, there's not a huge difference here in this part of the frame. It almost looks like the Xtol looks a little more smooth in some ways, but you can still see the chunky grain in the Xtol. So let's go down to the bottom portion of the frame and see if we can see any major differences here. Yeah, it really does show that the Microdol X is quite a bit smoother in tone. You don't see the grain as pronounced, even though we're at the same magnification for both pictures. So there we are with that. We'll just go down here a little bit. Yeah, and you can almost say the Xtol is a little bit sharper, but not by a huge extent either. We're at 10,000 dpi on these scans, so it's really just splitting hairs at this point. The scan is obviously a lot more in dpi than the resolution of the picture itself. I know this scanner has an optical resolution of around 5,000 dpi, so 10,000 dpi is just a little bit an extra filler and buffer. But anyway, that's enough of those two pictures, and we'll go on to the next set. So here we are at 10%, and as you can see, the Xtol looks a little bit slightly contrastier than the Microdol X, maybe a little bit sharper too. There's really not a huge tone difference between the two images, of course, but the sky does seem to be a little bit brighter on the Xtol, so it's almost like there's a little bit more range in the tones on the Xtol image. The Microdol X, or Mic X clone in this case, seems to compress the tones ever so slightly in comparison. So here we have the next two images. Again, the Microdol X, or Mic X, is on the left, the Xtol is on the right, and unfortunately we lost part of the image to the way I trimmed the negative, and fortunately I wasn't able to get the full image for this particular set on the Xtol, so that's not a problem. In this particular image, the Microdol X seems to have more contrast. Now, this could be because of the way the image scanned on the cut negative, so I'm not going to actually use this as a point of reference too much in this particular set. So what I'm going to focus on this set is the actual grain on these two images, and so far you can see we're at 37%, and yeah, you can sure see the contrast difference here, but the grain still holds up at this res, so let's go on a little bit further. Let's go up to 100%. Well, here we are at 102%, and yeah, the grain is a lot smoother on the Microdol X on the left. You can see more crunchiness in the grain on the Xtol on the right, and just you can see it especially in the woodworks and that kind of thing. It's almost like the Microdol X has a little bit more sharpness too, but that could be subjective based on the contrast of the Xtol image. But yeah, so that's this first set of images where we just have the straight developers. Now the second batch we're going to go to is the 1:1 dilution on Xtol and the 1:3 dilution on the Microdol X. So let's go to that set of images now. So here we have the third set of images together. Again, the Microdol X developer, which was done first, is the image on the left, and that's the one that had the Xtol second. And the picture on the right is the Xtol first, and the Microdol X second. Now basically these images, the developer time was split in half between the two developers, where I basically took the Microdol X, did it for half time, dumped it out, then put the Xtol in right after it, and finished the developing process for the second half of time. And that was reversed on this image here on the right. So right away you can see that the sky is a lot brighter on the image on the right, which was the Xtol first. So that seems to suggest that Xtol is actually doing something to the tones in the image, where it's brightening things up a little bit. But what I'm really curious to see is if there's a mixture of the two developers in terms of their qualities, and to see if we can actually tell a difference between the two, depending on which developer was used first. It's interesting that you can do a dual bath type situation with these two developers. It's interesting that you can see a little bit of quantitative differences as well. So anyway, let's zoom in and see if we can see any grain difference between the two. So let's go up to 100%. Well, there we go. That's there. Well, it's 98% there. That's pretty close. Right away, the one with the Microdol X on the left, that was first. you can see that it affected the grain pretty much right away as the developer was used first, because you can see a lot of harder, crunchier grain on the Xtol first one on the right. So obviously these developers are affecting the film depending which one goes in first. And you can see that the grain is a lot mushier, a little bit mushier anyway on the Microdol started one on the left, and the grain is a lot crunchier and harder and even maybe a little bit sharper on the Xtol started one on the right. So let's just go through some other areas of the image, and wow, you can sure see a sharpness difference here. The grass is a lot more defined. This is almost really hashy and mushy on the Microdol X started one on the left. There really is a sharpness difference between these two. So it's surprising to see that it makes that much of a difference between these two images. So yeah, you can even see with the tree here, it's a lot more defined than over here, where it just doesn't have the detail as much. And even the trees, the leaves themselves, they're a lot more defined in the image on the right. So that's interesting to note. Let's go down to the grass portion. And yeah, well, it's interesting. The grass looks a little bit sharper on the image on the left. That could have been a focus thing as well. I did try to keep the focus point the same between the images, but maybe it was just a variation at that particular time where the lens decided to stop. But actually, I'll take that back. You can see on these tips here, they're more defined and sharper on the Xtol started one on the right, and over here they're a lot softer in that respect. And you can see it over in the grass here. It looks a little harder and crunchier on the Xtol one. So yeah, obviously mixing developers in a two-bath type of situation, whatever attributes the first developer does is usually what you end up getting with the image. So you're not really gaining much by doing a two-bath situation, in my opinion. You're better just to stick with the straight developer all the way through. So let's see if we can go to another image and see if we can notice any differences there. So here we are with the same situation with which developer was first. Microdol X started one on the left, Xtol started one on the right, and it almost looks like the Microdol X one on the left has slightly deeper blacks, but the Xtol one on the right definitely has brighter whites. So that's interesting to note. You can see it in the grass as well. Again, I noticed this in the previous pictures, but the grass is a lot lighter on the Xtol started one. You can almost see highlights on the leaves as well, but that's probably just a lighting difference from where the sun was reflecting at the time. But yeah, you can almost see that the Xtol started one seems a little bit sharper. So let's zoom in again and see if we can notice some differences. Right away you can see the Xtol one has slightly better sharpness. The grain is more pronounced as well on the Xtol one. Let's go to the wood portion here and see what we can notice. Not a huge difference in this two sections here. You can see in the center between the trees that the grain is a little softer and mushier on the Microdol started one on the left. So Yeah, and the Xtol one on the right, the grain is a little more pronounced and sharper. So it's interesting that Microdol X seems to keep its attributes even when you do a 2-bath type of situation. So that is interesting to note. There's really no reason to do a 2-bath situation from what I can see in these images, because whatever developer you start with is the attributes you're going to get for your picture. So anyway, we're going to go to the last images here, and we'll just go with that. Here we are. And we'll just see if we can. This is the mixture swamp water image of the trees, and you can see that the grain is almost like a cross between the two here. It's a lot finer, softer grain in the image, but not so much as compared to the Microdol X. So it's almost like mixing the two developers together gives almost a half and half situation. Yeah, you can see that the grain is quite smooth in the center section here. And yeah, so interesting to note, the sharpness doesn't seem to be quite as good as straight Xtol or Xtol done first. So you do lose a bit of sharpness then compared to going to Xtol strictly. Yeah, it's interesting to note that. So let's go to another image. And yeah, the grain seems a lot more refined in this swamp water mixture. It's not nearly as pronounced as I was seeing in other images, of course, but it's interesting to see that the sky, you can see the slight grain pattern here. So yeah, I'm just gonna get this so we can get this zoom factor a little bit higher. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely not quite as sharp as an Xtol mixture, of course, but it definitely softens the grain having Microdol X in this mixture. Yeah, the sharpness is nowhere near as much either in this case. So let's go down to the grass and see if we can see any differences. Yeah. Let's strictly go on this image here and see if we can see some differences in the grass. Now, in a previous picture, I noticed that these tips on the blades of grass was a lot sharper with the Xtol version. In this case, it seems to be retaining the Microdol X softness. It just isn't retaining the sharpness that the Xtol had previously in these images. So looking at the full image of the swamp water mixture, you can see the sky is a lot brighter, so it retained that Xtol type of look there. A lot deeper blacks as well. It seems to have a bit more contrast in the swamp water mixture, and that was a little bit similar to the dual bath type of developing pictures as well. So yeah, let's change the image, and here again it seems to be pretty consistent. We don't have much tones in this particular image, but this image was pretty flat in comparison to the other ones as well. But definitely have a slightly brighter sky in this swamp water mixture, and maybe a little bit softer in terms of sharpness as well. So let's go to the tree one here. Again, you can see in the sky that it's a lot brighter than in other Microdol X pictures. So obviously that swamp water mixture was doing something, and interesting to note that. Yeah. So I don't know if there's any benefit to mixing the two developers together, either in a dual bath or in a swamp water situation. Basically, you may get a little bit of a mixture of the two developers in the swamp water mix, but doing a dual bath situation, you're still basically getting attributes of the first developer. And going strictly the straight developers themselves, yeah, if you want softer, mushier grain and less sharpness, go with the Microdol X developer. And if you want a sharper image with the crunchier grain and more highlights, maybe a little more slightly contrast as well, a little more tones, maybe go with the Xtol. So interesting to note. I'm gonna have to try doing the swamp water one a little bit more, just to see if it actually is making a difference in my images. Next time I'll probably cut the developing time down a little bit, just so that it's not quite as contrasty in the image, and that things where the sky isn't quite as blown out in comparison. So yeah, but there you have it, guys. Nothing too conclusive other than what I previously mentioned already. Obviously, using the developers in this way, doing a dual bath isn't really gaining much. A swamp water one does gain a little bit between the two, but basically not enough to merit using the swamp water mix. So there you go, guys. So as you can see from the results that there's maybe a little bit of a difference, but it's hard to really spot the difference. I did my scans at 5000 DPI for this video, and yeah, it was a closer test than I thought it would be. So anyway, hope you care to comment, like, and subscribe to my videos, and let's see what we come up with in the future. Again, I'm going to be doing my videos back in 4K in the near future after this month, and yeah, so I'm back to using my cell phone for video. I still have my XH2 Fuji at this time, but I am planning on selling it, and I'm hoping it doesn't not sell for too long a period of time. But anyway, that's what it is. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.